So that's a pretty standard panel discussion. So I will be the moderator. You feel free to ask any questions. I have my own hidden agenda in this.
Why do you tell us now?
Yeah. So now you will start thinking what is the hidden agenda behind. So the topic is leadership engagement into anything we want them to engage. So I see the big challenge with this in the companies. Yeah. Basically, they are somewhere far away, and the people are somewhere also far away from them. So we have to try to understand how to make them engaged. And the management, not only top management, there are different managers, right? And actually, when we start making the agile transformation, it should go like top down, bottom up, right? So there is someone in the middle, always, who's stuck there. Yeah. So I will not ask a specific participant to answer the specific question. So we have a discussion that's not like Alexey, could you please tell me blah, blah, blah.
Fight for the microphone, right?
Yes, you have to fight for the microphone. And every 5 minutes, I would like you to change the place where you're sitting.
So we'll go over there?
No, you have to change the chairs. Okay? I will give you like 10 seconds for each of you to make a small presentation of yourself. So maybe not of people know who you are. So a couple of words about yourself, pass the microphone, then we start.
And how maybe you are related to the topic of engaging management.
Yes. Okay. I'm Olaf, leadership coach, leadership trainer from Berlin.
Andrea Provaglio, also working as an agile coach in the leadership field, and I feel very strange to be up here because this whole concept of me being an expert and you being not makes me uncomfortable. So please share.
I'm Naama. I come from Israel. I'm an agile coach, and I work both with teams and with management to drive agile.
Hi, my name is Pavel. I'm an agile coach, and my main pain is striving for convincing leadership for doing something. Maybe I shouldn't convince them. This is a point to think about. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Artur. I'm an agile coach, trainer, facilitator, and I tasted 568 different beers, not in a weekend. And it's about engaging. It's not only the leadership and the bosses, the managers, but everyone around that is involved that is actually going to do the work. But I don't want to change the topic. Alex.
Yeah, I'm Alexey. Why I think I know something about this topic, I'm not an expert, but I know stuff which I can share because I've been to several or many different attempts to change stuff at different companies. And I've done many attempts how to engage and actually sometimes disengage management from doing something they should not be doing. So I can talk about my pains. I'm not an expert in how to engage, but I share a lot of pain in this topic, so to say. Yeah.
Actually, I see the most of the pain is going from the both sides, because if you actually ask the people who's working in the field, let's say like this, right? So they're complaining top managers a lot. They're saying like the top managers like doesn't give the pure vision, they not engaged, they don't know about our problems, they never work with us, they don't want to hear us and stuff like this. But if we actually ask top managers what's going on around, they will probably tell something like that. So they will tell like the people from the bottom don't want to raise the problems, they don't want to find the solutions, they don't generate the creative ideas. So and that looks like the circle that never ends, right? So people complaining on other people, and other people complaining the previous people, right? So what to do, how to break the circle?
What I like is to reflect the behavior to both sides. So for teams, what I usually say is, okay, this is this and that, okay, but what have you tried to do that? And when they say, we want to do this and that, and then my question would be, what is stopping you from doing that? And that usually stops people to actually start thinking. And I don't really let them just complain about the management and so on, but I actually try to keep the responsibility part for them. And with managers, what I use a lot of time the responsibility process by Christopher Avery to reflect on the process of what happens with people and in what stage they're actually stuck, and how to coach them to get one step up in the ladder. And also, I find that after I finish the analysis in a new organization and I reflect that to top management, they know most of their pain points. They're just not really keen on starting to handling the painful ones. So it's our role as agile coaches to keep them on the important stuff and not to give up on the agenda and deal with the easier stuff.
Yeah, from my perspective, I would actually, if I see any case that, that people start to distinguish, like to build walls between each other and creating sides, often in a war among each other, I try not to get them together, show them the main goal that they have, and try to build these communication circles and often feedback cycles. This is what it's called. It's very important to have among the people who are, let's say, underneath somewhere they're doing executing the job, and people on the top or whatever in the structure. It should be like closer kind of collaboration and feedback cycle among them, and you should kind of facilitate that kind of communication and friendship, probably. Yeah.
Go.
I'm going to say one word, and you capture the first image that comes to your mind. Apple. What comes to your mind?
Apple.
Steve Jobs?
Apple.
Apple. Which color? Green?
Green apple.
Red? Yeah. Okay. Energy. What comes to your mind? Light bulb?
Like
A thunder or kind of battery? Red Bull? Okay, we can do that for a long time, but imagine the leaders giving the vision or where we are going to in one simple email or just one sentence that they say, or they put everyone together and they say just once. How many words can be misinterpreted, and like people are thinking different things all the time? Imagine the documents, or even we put an amazing paper there, but it's not really explained, so the clarity is not there, and it's not over-communicated again and again to everyone. So it's very easy to put a finger point when you think that they understood, but actually they didn't, and actually you think that you understood, but you thought about Apple, you thought about Steve Jobs, and you thought about Newton falling the apple and say, oh, that's gravity. So how can we make sure that everyone understands the same words in the same way and where we are going to the same direction? So that's a good challenge.
Yeah, and now I can remember what I was trying to say. Actually, I was thinking that, I think everybody is actually engaged, usually. It's not about the level. I think the problem is not lack of engagement, it's something else. Maybe it's a lack of clarity, what to be engaged on for, and this message needs to be repeated, like in your slide, in your talk, you have this like repeated 4 times, make it clearer and clearer. But also we should remember that, well, this agile transformation or whatever change we are a part of, that's not the first change happening in the company, so there's some history. And of course, because we're here, the previous change probably was not so successful or was forgotten, or maybe that's another stage of change. So people just prefer maybe to wait a bit and see if there's just another BS which will be forgotten tomorrow, or management is really serious about that. So I guess it's a natural expectation from employees to wait and see how serious is all these things are. And if it's just messages on the wall, nobody is really putting energy in apples in. It's not going to happen. So I think management needs to keep repeating why and what and how, and really show some enthusiasm about that. And in some companies which have struggled with many different changes, I guess it might take few months of management trying to be engaged before employees actually say, okay, it seems like this stuff is going to change, so we'd better react, otherwise we'll be out soon. So it's that.
There's also interesting thing, you're saying the beautiful ideas, but you're welcome. But what is interesting stuff I actually see, if you start working with the company, and you usually start working with the top managers because You have to have their opinion on what's going on, right? And you ask, okay, guys, to start this transformation, wherever you start, we need to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 days together, trying to understand, so you can understand what is actually we mean under agile, right, or under something else. And usually it's in Ukraine. I don't know how it works in the rest of the world. They saying, oh no, our top managers could not spend 2 days for the training. We can plan this event if you need 2 days in 2025, or maybe later, but please, yes. We have half an hour in 3 months, and maybe if it's Saturday and everyone will say, okay, we will make it in half a year.
And you have to commit for results.
Yes, and you have to make us understand what the fuck agile means within this 1 day. So we can apply this to our context of our organization and make it works.
That's exactly the reason why I don't do agile transformations anymore. So because I don't like the label. I don't like it's not that the thing is not good, but it's the way that people approach it. Somebody once said, if something has a label, then management thinks it comes in a box. I think that's a very condescending sentence. We treat managers with very, very little respect in our community. It's my experience, and I've done that most of my career. And what I do now when I meet such managers is I first ask them, is the current organization the result of your leadership? And then depending on how quick they are, they usually say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, and the organization you want next, what leadership is that organization going to need? It's not about agile. It's about changing the way we are leading and managing and structuring and strategizing this organization. So I'm not going to start any work with any employee in the company unless the managers have understood and designed and started to move their change. Everything else is just a waste of time. It might be fun, right? We can make 10 teams agile or help 10 teams to be agile, or we can do lots of fun things. But if we want to transform the organization, and the organization currently is a power hierarchy, that's the only way that works in my experience. So don't let them out of this.
The question? Yes.
Ask? Yeah. What are the rules? Can I have a short question?
The rules of what?
Of our communication.
There is no rules, it's chaos.
Let's fight, let's bring beer, whatever,
yes.
Dance. Cool. So I have a question. How do you describe your position to these top managers? How do you describe how can you be valuable? How do you sell? How
that's what Pavel is asking.
Yeah, I was just afraid of this word.
How do I sell myself? That's an interesting question. Not very much. I've been labeling myself as a trust artist when I started doing this job several years ago. Usually, companies who want to work with me come and ask me, and I don't always ask them why they. They ask me to help them, which is also I very rarely get approached by companies who don't really want to change. And I work with much smaller organizations usually than some of the big futile changes that I'm seeing. And that's a choice. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, I also see that the people, but at the end, they would like to have a name of the thing they are doing. Because all of this stuff with Spotify frameworks, safe, less, all other things. Today in the banking in Ukraine, everyone want to do Spotify.
That's great.
They have no idea what Spotify is about. They've never been in Spotify.
It's the working model of an organization that never made a euro in their whole existence. Is that actually what you want to copy? That's my first question.
Okay.
Safe and less both were developed in big agile projects 10 years ago at Nokia. We know what became of Nokia. Is that seriously where you want to copy from, guys? You have a successful bank with tens of thousands of employees, and this is your example? And that's the kind of hope we are selling as a community. We have very, very few success stories of that kind. ING is a good success story. That's a company that's been agile for more than 10 years, and it's
They
apparently
actually
still is.
also told that they're doing Spotify.
And I know, and their approach was fire all the managers. I wouldn't recommend that to any company. But it worked. It worked for them. I don't know if it would work for any other bank. So I think we need to be more honest with our customers.
True. What is the role of any level of management, I would say, within like adopting the change in the organization? Whatever you call it agile, adaptive, less, safe, Spotify. So what is their role in the organization? Because today, they're all like in like classical organization, they like setting the tasks and controlling the implementation of the task and raising up the flag or starting pushing the information, right? So what is the role of the future management? How to help them transform?
So I think that the first thing is that you need to create the environment for people to change, to be able to change their behaviors. So as Alexey said before, it's like their first task is to lead by example. Mm-hmm. So I would coach them to, first of all, when you participate in a meeting with your team, how do you show them the new behavior that is expected? What kind of behaviors do you promote? And what is your tolerance to other behaviors that are not welcome anymore? So I think that this is like, since I have 3 kids, so it's like parenting, but it is just like the same thing. You need to send clear signals and to have clear boundaries of what is expected and what is not. And first of all, you need to be very clear on how you practice that. So don't send any mixed signals. Like, for example, you want people to be self-organized and to make their own decisions, but when the hard times come, you say, okay, you know what? We don't have time for that. I will decide, right? This is like classic. No, take another 10 minutes and teach your team how to make decisions as a team. And that would, in the short term, it will be harder, but in the long term, it would be much better for you and for the organization.
This might sound controversial to what you just said, Naama, but actually we forgot to change seats a few minutes ago.
Yes, please change the seats.
Should take my stuff too. I didn't go too far.
You didn't go so far.
Am I following the rules? Yes, I've changed. What I was trying to say.
You said that we need to change chairs.
Yeah, contradicting. I would say that, well, when we say management needs to engage, what would be the signs of the engagement? Do they like all go red and start dancing on the tables, or what's the signs of engagement people are looking for? Recently, I've been a part of an attempt to transform a big organization which didn't work. And the failure was that management was engaged. They were always in the meeting room. They invited me to coach them and stuff. They were doing a lot of things. So they were busy with the agile transformation and system modeling and learning stuff, but they didn't make the decisions that had to be made back then. So there was there were lots of confusion in the organization. And it was obvious that this confusion need to be removed by making some decision. Like, for example, who is going to be our overall product owner? They wanted to go less. Okay, if you want to go less, there's a rule. You need to have one overall PO. Who is this guy or girl? I was there half a year with them, and then I quit. They weren't able to decide. They were engaged all 6 months. So I guess decisions is a sign of engagement. So I know we want, that's why I said it's going to be controversial, because you said we want people to decide. But we also said management needs to create environment. So this environment, there are a bunch of decisions which need to be made, basically.
You just reminded me that one of the most clear things for someone that comes from the outside is that the behaviors within the organization is a full reflection of the behavior of the management team. And many times people within the organization, they cannot see it. But if you look for anti-patterns, you would find them in the management team. And if they will be able to fix it for the management team, only then they will be able to take them down to the, I don't like the word down, but take it to the teams and change things in the teams. Yeah. Yeah. But it's a lot of times when managers are holding their heads and saying, oh, I don't understand why the team is working like that. Have you looked at your own teams? And actually in many cases, I see that management doesn't have a team. Like they're not calling themselves the team. They don't look at their peers as their team members. And I'm like, guys, 5 dysfunctions of a team, go read it, basic. But sometimes it takes that. Yeah.
Lezioni.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of a question that I also like to ask people on any level. How much pain are you willing to endure for the change that you want to see? And I think busy is nice. I definitely don't like if they're getting busy with the transformation, that's a good start. What I don't like is this sponsoring role. If somebody's just giving money, that's never going to be enough.
I'm a sponsor.
Yeah.
Go change. Right?
Exactly. So if they're interested enough to give money, there needs to be something else that they need to give. Otherwise, the system won't change. But that's the point I made before. But the question with the pain is, and this relates to what you said, like what are the habits that we need to give up? Gitte talked about being the environment being safe enough for us to be uncomfortable. We need to be uncomfortable for things to change because we need to get out of our habit zone. And that is the example that managers need to give. So if they're just busy doing stuff, busy in meetings, making whatever they're making, but they're not making new decisions, they're not actually making changes, they're not making progress, which links to another thing that I think that most transformation fail because they never even define success. I've rarely worked with an organization that knew which organizational metric do you want to improve with this agility that you're striving for. And if we don't know how to measure productivity before, we can't say if this agile thing is worth anything after we're done with it. And of course we won't be done with it, but many companies discard it at some point because they don't see the benefits, because they never defined. And I think if we start there, if we start with what are you going to change as leaders, all levels, how are you going to know that this change is happening? How is the organization going to see that we're making progress? I think then we're getting into a conversation. And you mentioned accountability earlier in your talk. I think that's the other thing that's lacking. Because we never define success, we can't be held accountable to it. And then the whole thing just dissolves in, do we have more joy at work? Which is great if we had. But if it's just more joy and potentially a lot slower and a lot less effective, then it's probably not going to last.
Yeah, and I've been listening carefully to what has been said, and I think the original question was, no, seriously, I was listening carefully. And the original question was about engagement of the management and so on. And I've heard different points of views. I think that sometimes as a community, as an agile community, we tend to focus on the interpersonal relationship, and we forget the organizational systemic view. We totally forget that 90% of the behavior of a person is determined by the infrastructures that have been built inside the organization for decades. I've seen managers that were blamed by their workforce for a number of things, but then when I talk to these guys, they are trapped. The managers themselves are trapped in a system that was built before they moved into that system. So I believe that what you were saying about, first of all, having clarity of purpose and being able to measure that is fundamental, because it becomes like a guiding light, a guiding star. And at the same time, I think that we should be more careful at not what people do, but the reason why they do it. We should start looking at what are the reasons, and sometimes they could be trivial. For instance, it could be the metrics by which. Oh yes, that's a classic. Could be how a person is evaluated, not literally, but just socially evaluated within the system. So if you're not someone who stays in the office until 8 p.m., then you're basically a dumb person, right? So, and this kind of habits, behaviors, or it could be something very practical. If you don't answer an email within 24 hours, then you're a slacker, something like that. So people, most of the people that I've met in my life are nice persons. Most of them. There are very few bad guys. Very few. There are, but very few. Most of the people I've met are nice guys. We just create horrible places for them to work. And at all levels. Which is why I also think that another good thing that you said is if the organization is structured as a power system, then you need to start working with power to change it. You cannot use another kind of force. If you want to change power, you need to use power. So working with top management and try and be able to bring them on board is definitely important, but seriously on board, as you were saying, to engage them from the top. Not because we need them at the top, but because the organization is built as a power system. Okay, done.
You know what is the interesting observation? I'm the coach interviewing other coaches who's working as the guys been hired by organization to help managers, right? So managers came to us and said, we have a challenge, could you please help us, right? So they pay money for us. The tricky question is, can organization change without guys like we are? So who can make it from inside of the organization? Do you have any real life examples where organization made a great change without involvement the guys with the dollars under the heads, right? So
I'm not sure if I have any examples, but what I'd like to say is that I think change can only happen from within. I think we are just some people who catalyze change, or
can it be internal
or
catalyzer?
they need to find someone who pay a lot to motivate themselves to change. I don't know how this works, but I think it's not us. If we're external coaches, it's not us doing change. It's them doing change. And of course, they can do it without us. They can do it themselves. Who knows which agile framework or whatever is used at Uber? Anybody? Are Slack? Actually, Spotify. Do we know how they work? Apple. What are the other successful companies?
Google.
Google, Microsoft. Nobody knows. And I haven't heard they were hiring coaches to help them with it, or whatever transformation. They probably do it on their own. They have great leaders who are still there. Uber just got a new CEO, and this guy is really changing the culture. I've been at Uber office 2 weeks ago, and people are super happy about all the change. And I haven't seen anyone who said I'm an agile coach here. Zero agile coaches. Scary shit, huh? For us. Oh no?
Naama,
I wouldn't
she
say
was
it's
first.
scary. Do you want to go first?
Yep.
I perceive myself to have two advantages when I come external. One is people tend to listen in a different way, and especially when you ask for enough money, then certain people are even to come into meetings that you call for, etc. So you get more visibility. And the other thing is I'm more courageous. I'm less frightened of being fired, which is related to the money. So I've met people who had both qualities inside organizations because they were just fearless and relentless, and they didn't give a fuck, and they didn't give a fuck about their reputation, about these things, but they wanted the organization to change. So to answer your question, I've seen that, but still these people sometimes benefited a lot from external help. It's possible otherwise, but there are also disadvantages. I fully agree with changes only happening on the inside. And regarding the name, so the most agile company or place that I've visited so far was GDS, Government Digital Services in the UK. They don't have agile coaches. They're a very agile organization. They even say they're agile, but they call the people who are called agile coaches in other organizations delivery leads, because these people are supposed to improve the delivery of the organization. And I've seen that pattern in other organizations too. They might not have exactly our role, but they do a similar job, and it's just not called coaching or not agile.
So I was lucky enough to do both jobs, the internal coach in SAP for 9 years and external coach. And in the agile transformation there, which was much more less oriented, even before less had a phrase for it, they did use external help, but only for the headquarters. And we, as an internal person, I went through internal training. So we had like a lean and agile center of expertise within every major location. And that was also for the people within the organization. It gave us like a way to develop. And I every time I come as an external coach, I always tell my selling pitch is actually my role is to make me unnecessary. So I really need someone from within that is not a manager, but is an agile angel, agile coach, agile whatever, champion, that I need someone from the inside that will help me drive stuff. Because when I was in the inside, I knew exactly who to talk to, how to talk to, and I knew my limitations. When I come from the outside, yes, I am much more courageous, and I can say a lot of things that usually I would not. And if, as an external, I find myself starting to be careful, I give myself like, okay, remember, you're an external person, no? But it's really, I think that it doesn't matter how you call it, you need someone from the inside to hold that, because once you step out,
yeah, that's destroyed.
There's like everything starts, people like start going back to the comfort zone. Yeah, you know, these sprints, they don't work for us anymore. Okay, what do you do instead? I don't know, we can kind of do. Okay, yeah, so it's okay to change the process, but you need to do that in a sensible way and to invest some thought in it. So it's really important to have someone from the inside all the time.
Thank you. Well, actually, I'll be quite fast. I was a person who was doing some small, nimble changes when I was working many years ago in a product company. I was young, brave, and stupid, so which didn't kind of stop me from changing something around me. I believe this is normal kind of case. The only problem was that I did a lot of mistakes. And if I had somebody from the external who could lead me, show me some examples, and give me expertise, this would really help me. And this is what I'm trying to represent right now, to bring some expertise and help people inside to do their job.
There are another ways you can obtain the expertise, because I've been the same guy in the other company. We just decided that the way we worked before in the teams that's working over the components in the large solution doesn't work for us, so we have to try something else. Then we read about SAFe, say, okay, let's try this shit. We would start making this. It worked for us somehow. We went to the certification, made the certification, made a bit more, started using in the groups. Then when we said, okay, SAFe looks like very overloaded for us, let's try less. So we learned about less. So of course we had some courage, brave guys. We've been very engaged, right? And no one actually locked us from these experiments. Basically, you had this talk about outsourcing, outstaffing stuff, right? So we've been outstaffed, but no one controls how the process is inside our office. So we can play wherever we want, at least if we have some results at the end. So we had the open experiments. That's a big challenge in actually in the organization, because like we had the option for experiment. That's what unlocked, from my perspective, the ability to make it by ourselves. Because if someone is locking what you are doing from the top, say, no, you have to follow the processes. Do what we told you to do. Then, unfortunately, that's very hard to break this circle, right?
And also, we bring our expertise, our experience, things that we can propose to the company, of course, from outside. But sometimes the only thing we are doing is just raising a mirror in front of them. And they see like, yeah, oh, ouch. Yeah, my hat is burning, the metaphor that Enrique used last time. And that's the only thing we are doing by asking questions. So why are we doing this way? True, oh shit. So it's normally, it's common to take things by granted. They are happening already, that's the way we are doing for decades, and that's it. Why? I don't know. So this mirror, I like it when you said the catalyzer, that we are making sure that things are moving by simply saying like, yeah, maybe this is a problem. If it's not a problem for you, we won't be pushing a pill for you. As a metaphor like, oh, you're feeling sick, take this pill. No, I'm not, take this pill.
But if
The pain should be there.
if we set the mirror in front of them, who set the mirror in front of us? Our coaches.
Normally
right?
appearing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I can't remember anymore what was the question, so I can answer any question, right? I guess that's how it works here. What was it? Just about.
Yeah, we should change
Okay.
the places. Yes.
Every
Every time Alexey is speaking,
I
we
try to
change the
say
places.
something, they cut me and they want me to change seats. See, they just about engagement. Yeah, we're still on the topic of engagement. I think. Who is the most engaged? I think it's actually external coaches are the most engaged people because they are basically full-time there to do change. So I see myself in most cases being the most engaged person, and now I know it's wrong. Because if you're the most engaged person, well, you are there, it's your new engagement, you want to show off, of course, you want to do change. And other people they actually have to do work besides like on the side of a change or the change on the side of the work. So, but you don't have this other work. You are there full time or part time, but all the time you are there, you're doing the change. So that's why that makes you the most engaged person there. But actually, I think it's poisonous because they will see you as somebody who's available to do the change. Several times they saw me as an agile leader, although I'm external. And if you don't know how it may actually fall apart, you would take this role of agile leader and you would lead, but then you look behind and there's nobody behind you because everybody is doing the work. They say, finally we have somebody to work on the change full time. We can just go back and do the work. You know? So I think we actually need to be more disengaged for somebody to engage. We still need to be there, catalyze and whatnot, but we need to control our engagement. I think it's important. And it took me, a lot of time to realize all the mistakes I made because I'm so engaged. Like, this is my nature to be engaged.
Question.
Woo!
I have a different point of view. This is how our family works.
You cannot hide there. Come on.
Okay. I'm relatively fresh in a small company. It's called Freeletics. Maybe some of you use the app. It's about fitness and mindfulness is coming. The company is based in Munich. So listening to all of this, and especially who is more engaged, when I arrived at the company, I figured out that management is the most engaged. And I arrived at a place where there was a lot of mistrust in Scrum Masters, product owners. And actually, I figured that this whole discussion is based on how to make them more engaged. And what I sometimes noticed is they have the skin in the game. They are engaged 100%, and then at some point they just lose trust. It's like they have a couple of Scrum dyatlys or Scrum woodpeckers who coach them to death, never give a straight answer on a very simple question. And when they say, I just lack the expertise, can you give me an advice? There is no advice given. And then at a certain point, they just disengage. So I think that's one of the reasons why I landed in the situation that I landed. And in some cases, what I saw, not only at Freeletics, but also at Xing and some other places, we as Agile coaches, when we come, we have our own agenda, like we're inspired with ideas from the conference and we want to try out stuff. And then we normally have our view of how things need to be done, and we take the stance. So there are 3 stances you can take. 1, the personal stance, 2nd, the team stance, and 3rd, the company stance. And what I sometimes see is Scrum Masters or Agile coaches, they take so much energy into making sure that persons feel good in the company, the teams are working well, and they're not paying that much attention to the company, the 3rd aspect. And there you have this kind of focus language disconnect with the upper management, where you constantly talk, but this will hurt the team, this will do something bad for personalities, and that probably is true, but at least emphasizing with them enough, having this company stance and having a look at the whole system maybe would help us to have like not ensure more engagement from them, but to actually cause less disengagement when talking to us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a seat. Yeah.
Yeah, two things. One of, well, I was thinking about the word engagement, and I realized during these last couple of minutes that it can have multiple meanings, because, and we probably should, we want to be clear about what we mean, because could be passionate, could mean, sorry, engaged could be passionate, or could be that you put a lot of time and effort into it, or that you have skin in the game, as you said. So when we say engaged, actually, we're very vague, and I think we need more clarity when we talk about engagement. And the other theme that I think emerged is that the role of a coach can be multifaceted. Sometimes we act as people who provide answers occasionally, but at that point you're no longer a coach, you're a consultant. If you ask for my advice and I give you my opinion, and then you are free to do whatever you want with it, I'm no longer a coach, I'm a consultant, which is one of the things that sometimes is needed. But as a coach, our main responsibility is to develop the potential in whoever we're working with. Could be an individual or could be an entire organization. That's our mission, that's our responsibility, to let them develop in a way that, in a certain way, they decide and we support. So yes, not being too engaged as a coach, I think, is fundamental, because otherwise you put too much of your hidden agendas. Somebody used the word hidden agendas into the work you're doing. So I believe that being a good coach is a very delicate situation, because you must be there and not be there at the same time, which is very. Sounds like a paradox, but a good coach is there and is not there at the same time. So, just thinking out.
Okay, guys, this looks like we are running out of time, so it's 56 seconds to finish. So I'd like to thank everyone. We're still here. You can ask any questions out there or out here. Oh, tomorrow, if someone is. No, you know, that's a really interesting thing. Like I saw a lot of the people in the organization, they think that there is the hidden agenda behind, and they're trying to figure out what is this, right? So I made that small anchor in the mind that there is some agenda. Of course, yes, I wanna just fuck with your minds. So
can I just check with these guys? So by the way, are you guys still with us? Yeah. Was it interesting for you? Did you get anything out of these 45 minutes? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.